All right, update from the near future. Because I recorded this video about a week or two ago. Um, I was gonna release this a bit ago, and then we had news on the Hornet thing just after I recorded this and was editing this, so I held off for a bit, hoping that even the next Friday, I think, when after the interviews, they actually interviewed Horner about all this stuff, the private investigator or whatever. I thought there might be an outcome, but then they said there's going to be no outcome for a while. So I was like, all right, we'll go back to re-releasing this. So I'm releasing this now. Thought maybe we could have some news on it, because I thought if Horner gets fired, then maybe Newey goes, and is Verstappen gonna stay past 2025? But I think even then, probably, one, I don't think Verstappen would straight up leave just that soon. I think it's more likely if Red Bull start to decline, or maybe 2026 or 2027, then he would just get sick of it and retire or move to another team, but probably more likely retire, because he said, but apparently Newey wouldn't leave if they fired Horner. Apparently the friendship's gone there, so a bit weird. Again, hearing a lot of bullshit about this whole thing, so that could be false as well, but it's interesting to hear maybe that could be the case. Horner leaves, and apparently Verstappen's caught up in this somehow. Apparently Verstappen wants him gone as well. If Newey wants him gone, if Marco wants him gone, it's hard to see him staying. Especially if the rumors are true. A little sad. Thought there could have been some alternative, but whatever. I'll comment more on the allegations when we actually know what the allegations are. And now the update is Albon, because he's been signed off for 2025. And I talked about the potential of him getting off this contract for 2025. Apparently he's been off the contract for 2026 and beyond, multi-year contract probably. It'll be interesting, because I wouldn't know who would Red Bull then sign for 2025. Would they give a 1-year contract to Checo? Would Checo accept that? Does Danny Ricciardo accept a 1-year contract and then retire? Do we get something like Hulkenberg, who maybe would be Audi bound 2026 anyways, and wants to get out of Haas? Or Sainz, for example, as well. Sainz could, have a nice, could have a stopover there. Because I don't know if he wants to go to, Sauber. I'm calling it Sauber, until before Audi get there, and probably before that, the car's maybe not going to be great. But anyways, so that's interesting. And yeah, that was about it. And I will release this now, but just wanted to give an update on why maybe a little bit of it was outdated. And I've mentioned a lot that it was like what day it was. So but yeah, we'll talk further about the Horner allegations once those get released. And after this, I will also, the next 2 episodes of the podcast will be after testing, where I'll talk about my season predictions, and now that we've got the pecking order, or after we've got the pecking order, really who it looks like, who's going to be who, where, and also I'm going to do a fantasy F1 locking in. I want to say locking in my team, but like more showing you what I would do with my team and what I think is going to be good starting the season off, and give some recommendations for that. But other than that, enjoy it, and enjoy the rest of this. And yeah, I will be making a few more podcast videos in the next coming week. Hello, and welcome to the Trip4ndF1ll Podcast, episode 11, pending a rebrand. That's right. Before I start this, what we've got planned for today, I just want to say I'm looking at potentially changing things up. I've got a few ideas of obviously new videos, adding more to this channel than just podcasts, for example, and also a new name, new identity, something that's less connected to my Twitch channel, because I always felt Trip4ndF1ll worked when it was like a side hustle. Hold on one second. Apparently I have a new message on LinkedIn from who though? Whatever, I'll check that later. The main issue is, honestly, I just need time, and I don't have the time right now. And honestly, to be honest, I need to catch up with a few things. So well, first of all, like friends always asking to play with me, and I'm just like, there's a few things I've got of a night now, and then it's like, okay, then I do have a few nights off, and I'm thinking I'll probably stream less, so I do have time to hang out with friends a bit more, which I'm probably planning on doing anyways. And I mean, I've got work, obviously, even though like that's not terrible, to be honest. That's like on a good week, I'll be doing 20 hours instead of 40 hours that I'd normally doing. Getting pretty good pay for 20 hours, but anyways, we won't talk about that. All I'll say is casual rates are fairly good, but it works for me currently. And yeah, I've got like family commitments, and I'm studying to get some IT certifications, just to upgrade myself. And yeah, possibly if things like start to kind of settle down, I get into a good place with either my current job or another job, maybe full time, and then it's like, okay, I have a consistent schedule now. I'm not studying as much because I feel more confident in my skills, maybe still a bit, but I'm not feeling like I definitely need to study. Then yeah, maybe I'll do the rebrand. So again, I at this point I don't feel like it's really something that's confirmed rebrand until like maybe mid this year, next year even, I think. We'll see. Maybe it never comes to fruition. It would be kind of fun because I have some ideas. Not only it would be a rebrand that would push further away from me. I mean, obviously I'd be the host, blah blah, I would be the owner of the channel, but I do want to include guests and things and other things like that. I think I have some really good ideas already that I'm working on, and then possibly I'll keep those videos until I do the rebrand. I'll have a few things that I can show you guys and start off with a bang, uploading something like every few weeks, for example, or something, and I don't need to worry about, maybe I think I have a few things in the backlog of like finished products, so I can release something every few weeks while still focusing on like future content and get a head start maybe. So I don't need to be rushing it too much. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's the thing. For the meantime, though, we'll keep doing Trip4ndF1ll podcasts. I've got this one and one other confirmed, but I've spent nearly good 5 minutes talking about something that isn't related to this podcast episode. So I will say, today I wanted to, I had this plan for a while. I'm really glad I was going to do this like Wednesday. I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to do it Wednesday. Then I was like, oh yeah, shit, I should actually focus on my iRacing. My friend's got a league. The league just finished up today. Yesterday was the final race. We might do a little recap. I might show you. I've also got an F1 league currently going on, which I'll probably, once that finishes well, I'll probably give a recap of that as well. Those are the two things I might include in in this current iteration of the channel. But yeah, so I was going to do it Wednesday, and then I decided, oh shit, there's probably more important things I could focus on. I really want to talk about some shit because even before that, even before a few days ago, I had a lot of great ideas. I was like, and then a few things happened, which, switch things up. Yes, I am indeed talking about, this was meant to be a silly season preview, but I think the silly season's already begun. The silly season for, the 2024 silly season, since we didn't really get much of a silly season last year, and everybody knew, there's 16 people out of contract or whatever, a decent amount of people, and now people have got contracts, obviously, for 2025. We've got to talk about some of them, but we're also going to talk about what I think is probably going to happen for a bit of that. So honestly, sorry, I just gotta, there we go, something like that. I was gonna start with Williams. I might even mention that as well. That's kind of silly season as well. I was gonna start with Williams, but and I was like, because I usually start with the top teams first and they go down to bottom teams or whatever. It might not name the bottom teams I'm thinking, it might not necessarily be the bottom teams next year, we don't know, in 2024, but it's the current order, pecking order according to last year's standings. But more important things have happened. The internet fucking went wild. If you're a big fan of F1, you would have known there is some big news today. Yesterday, the day before, this week, basically. And wow, I'm just shocked. So we'll talk about the things that have already started with the silly season, then we'll go on to what possibly also could happen and all the possibilities. But here's the things that are, first of all, here are the things that are confirmed. That are confirmed to be going on. We'll have a year-long silly season at this point. Or maybe we'll have a silly season and nothing will happen. The silly season will be now, then everything's locked in for the next year. Before the 2024 season even starts. Fucking hell, that would be crazy. No, I think there will still be crazy things, and I think there's one thing I think that might even go up to the very end of the year, but I'll mention that later. All right, so notice typo. So obviously I had a few notes before a few contract extensions happened that kind of are a little outdated, but even then, recent news is also maybe, I don't know. And then the news, the Ferrari news, yesterday a few days ago. Let's say a few days ago. I don't know when I'll release this. I'll probably edit this real quick and upload it to the channel. Can't imagine it would need much editing. We've got Ferrari. Hamilton joins Ferrari for 2025. Now, when I saw rumors of this, and I was seeing rumors of this, I think before I started one of my streams on Thursday, I think. I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, whatever, fucking hell. And then, I'm like, yeah, fucking this is bullshit. It's like next shitty room, whatever, fucking, sorry for swearing so much as well. I've never said I was a child friendly or family friendly, podcast, but oh God, I would be off the air of Sky Sports. I'm sorry, it's just in our language, isn't just in Australian language. I might have to go grab something in a second. I just realized it's a bit dry, Mike. I want to grab my water. Especially if I'm going to be talking for an hour and a half. So yeah, I thought that was bullshit. I thought Hamilton to Ferrari was absolute bullshit. Then people are talking. People keep on talking. I'm not streaming. We're at this point we're playing some Shell Shock. I'm just playing some Shell Shock with some friends. One friend likes F1, the others meh. Um, they didn't care. But I was like, holy shit, because he's gaining traction. And it's like, what the fuck? No, there's no way. There's no way. And then Sky Sports F1 starts reporting. I'm like, what? Sky F1 is reporting? I'm like, this still could be bullshit, but this is actually like, what? And yeah, no, and then obviously, even after like a lot of people announced, I was like, I'll wait until tomorrow. And I hear all the rumors saying that Toto's got to be talking to the factory and Hamilton's going to make an announcement later that day and stuff. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I went to sleep. Next day, I woke up, obviously, it's confirmed. And, I've heard from Hamilton, we've heard from Ferrari, we've heard from Sainz, we've heard from Leclerc, we've heard from, yeah. Well, anyway, we've heard from literally everyone. So the thing really about this Hamilton to Ferrari is it just came out of nowhere. I think that's the thing that surprised me. I don't know how many people have mentioned this, but it really came out of nowhere. We're hearing about Sainz to Audi. We've been hearing about that for years. That might come true. We've been hearing about Daniel Ricciardo to Red Bull for a while. Again, I was probably the first to believe in that. Everybody's like, he's not going to get back into F1. He's going to be the Red Bull reserve, and that's it. He's not going to go to AlphaTauri. They're going to save that for a junior team member, And they're like, if they get rid of De Vries, they'll replace him with Lawson. But I was like, no. Liam Lawson is in the middle of the season right now, and even though it's only Super Formula, he probably wants to finish that off. And I was fucking right. I'm sorry to swear. Again, I need to tone down the language. I notice even at work, I swear a little, not in front of customers or anything, but I'm a bit of got a bit of math on me. But no, I was right about that. And it was the thing that there was rumors of Ricciardo going to Red Bull, and there's still be rumors of Ricciardo going to Red Bull. I think it's almost as surprising as when Piastri announced he's going to McLaren last year. Like, I don't think anybody heard about that until basically Piastri said, no, I'm not driving for Alpine. And they're like, whoa, who is he driving for next year? There's no way he declines Alpine and, doesn't have that anything planned. All right, but yeah. So that was that. I think that's the craziest thing about Hamilton. No one expected it. Nothing was leaked. It's kind of like, and I might do a few NBA references, a few NBA comparisons in this video because I have got a few. This is very similar to things I think that have played out in recent years in the NBA, and obviously sports are inherently similar to them in how the politics work of it, not how the games work, but how the politics of transfers and all that work. Again, someone probably use football analogies or something. Explain this in Manchester United terms. No, it was like with a few years back when Paul George got traded to the LA Clippers. Now, the LA Clippers are a kind of no bullshit team where they just say, where it's very locked down, you hear if they're rumored to get someone from Lakers, you hear about so long, you hear the rumors. There are so many leaks. There's no leaks or very little leaks in the LA Clippers. Obviously, we expect Kawhi Leonard to come to the Clippers, but yeah. And Paul George, the trade for Paul George was like, whoa, that like, I was like, We were hearing about James Harden going to the Clippers for a while. No one thought that was true and whatever. But Paul George came out. Oh, I think that's the thing with Ferrari, Hamilton. I'm honestly, that just came out of nowhere. We've been hearing for ages, obviously. We're hearing Hamilton to Ferrari for ages. But who expected a random rumor popping up middle of the winter break? Yeah, winter break. I got to remember because, seasons are the opposite way around here. No, how you expect that really to turn into anything? So it's crazy. So I think it does it make sense? Yes and no, I guess. Hamilton to Ferrari, it's a legacy move. He wants to race. I think Toto says Lewis told him it was for a new change, a new challenge, possibly. But I think it's more a legacy. He wants to race in red just like Senna did, just like Schumacher did, just like, But those are the, when you think Ferrari, those are the main two. Did Senna actually? Yeah, Senna did race. Wait, hold up. I might have just got this wrong. Senna. Maybe he didn't. Hold up. No, he never raced for Ferrari. I'm an idiot. Okay. So just like, I don't know, Prost, for example, just like, let's look at famous Ferrari drivers. Okay. Niki Lauda, Michael Schumacher, Kimi Räikkönen, Fangio, Vettel, considering it doesn't actually have a huge amount of like amazing drivers. I mean, Lauda, Scheckter, Schumacher, Raikkonen. It's Schumacher really that's really pushed them. Like then you get a lot of older drivers. Like I'm probably disrespecting a lot of guys like Ascari, Hawthorne, Hill, Surtees. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm not disrespecting Lauda because he was a great driver as well. Just unfortunate what happened to him, I guess. But even then, he came back and still won the championship. And it's going to have people like potentially have Kubica. Obviously, Alonso's been a Ferrari. It's a destination. It really is a destination, and I can see why maybe Lewis wants to drive for them. I felt like, in a sense, Hamilton made his own legacy, and that was like the kind of, he was the king of Mercedes, and he's still going to go down the record books as being that guy. If he wasn't at Mercedes, I still feel like maybe, let's say, for example, Schumacher stays a year or two, let's say in this hypothetical world, he doesn't go skiing. Or something, or same instant accident does happen and he stays for 1 or 2 more years because they're not lining up Lewis. And Laws VS has a view on this. Maybe I'll link it down below, or maybe you guys can just search up Laws VS Schumacher staying at Mercedes or whatever. He has a video saying basically, what if he stayed, and he predicts Rosberg won the title in 2014, I think, and then Schumacher might win the title in 2015. Maybe something similar to that. I could see it. If Schumacher sticked around, I don't think he was as washed as people thought. He just needed a little bit more of a boost, and Mercedes was an amazing team in 2010, 2011, 2012, was it? Yeah. He stayed there for 3 years. Hold up. Let me just check there. Michael Schumacher. Sorry. I just need to fact check myself sometimes. But yeah, so this was, it's interesting. I'll stop talking about this in a bit because I'm obviously Lewis Hamilton. I could talk about this for a whole fucking episode. But we've got a few things to talk about as well. 2010, 2011, 2012. Um, yeah, it was with Mercedes. Yep. So, and then obviously Lewis Hamilton got that 2013, blah, blah, blah. He was the king of Mercedes, and I feel like that's his legacy. He doesn't really need to race in Ferrari to improve his legacy. I mean, yeah, it'll add another person who's like, whoa, look at someone else who's raced for Ferrari, but whatever. And again, his McLaren years were decent. He obviously won a championship, and probably wanted his McLaren years to be a bit more than that. Win a few championships. And even the McLaren back then wasn't as iconic. I guess the Vodafone colors, maybe how it's grey and stuff. When you look at like a more iconic as McLaren is the orange McLaren, for example. But I don't know. I mean, there's been some pretty iconic McLarens in the past that aren't that McLaren orange. So anyways, but still, Mercedes is his legacy, and I don't really think he needed to move to Ferrari. And speak of the whole Schumacher, or him moving to Mercedes 1 year before the regulations. Now, this is the thing that a few people have been talking about that I want to just, I think, debunk. Moving to Ferrari 1 year before the regulations changed, similar to how he moved to Mercedes 1 year and then you saw what happened. I don't think that's going to be the same. Just because historically, Ferrari have not had the best history with regulation changes. Again, I know the team's changed, but still, Ferrari at its core is still the same. And I think just you look at historic things, and I don't think they've changed enough. That's why one of the reasons why I think Ferrari isn't winning enough. They still have that same core, whereas more modern teams like Mercedes, Red Bull have won championships recently in recent history. You go back to even 2009. Brawn, big, modern at the time, modern energy. But you go back to more like 2008, when's the last time? That was Kimi Räikkönen. No, that was Lewis. Even then, you go back to Lewis winning the championship with McLaren with a more legacy team. A legacy team has not won since 2008. A lot of champions have been won by more modern teams that have embraced modern times. By modern times, I mean, teams that have, again, even then, Red Bull's an old team when you think about it, but they're still rooted in the 21st century. Obviously they appeared about 2004, 2005. Mercedes, appeared in 2010. Brawn 2009, with obviously, Brawn GP 2009 with Brawn, who was, an innovator, and he wasn't stuck in his ways, even though, he first won. He first was in winning cars in 2009, and you could say the same about Red Bull, where what's his name? Why do I always forget things when it comes down to it? This is why I'm always scared about Adrian Newey. Like, even then, he's been around for ages. You'd think maybe his ways would be stuck, but he's adapted. He's really adapted, and he's really he hasn't gone, oh god, these cars are getting too complicated for me. I'm used to developing cars in the 90s or the early 2000s, blah blah. He's adapted. I think Ferrari hasn't changed enough as something. But anyways, I've been talking about fucking Ferrari for that long. We'll probably speed through a few other things. So I wanted to mention, I don't think Ferrari have that history. And let's look back to the have that history of adapting to the regulation change. Historically, they have not had impressive first years of regulations. Anyways, and you look back to 2022, the last time that Ferrari did do well at a regulation change. They did well for a while. They were on fire. I would have loved for that Ferrari to finish it off. Yeah, sure. I'd finish it off on a high note. I mean, sure, like I'm a Red Bull fan. I wanted Verstappen to win, and I was happy when Verstappen won. But at the same time, that would have been a fairy tale ending. It was Ferrari's yet to lose, and they lost it. They just, it went sour. Do I believe in Hamilton to be more competent than Leclerc? Yeah, but it wasn't entirely Leclerc's fault that Ferrari dropped off. It was the car as well. It was the team. Sure. Leclerc obviously made some pretty bad mistakes, and Verstappen proved that he was, Verstappen has been proving he is a much more mature driver, and he's ready to win championships. And I think he can go into anything now and win a championship. He is just, I think Leclerc wasn't ready to win championships. He's probably still not ready to win championships, and maybe he just needs a dominant car for a few more years where he gets into the kind of I hope that my brother raging at games is not in the background of this, but have fun with that. I believe more in Hamilton because Hamilton is more of a cold-blooded driver. And he's experienced. He knows how to win championships, and he has more of a chance. But again, it's all dependent on Ferrari. Do Ferrari go, hey, we've got something good for 2026, and then do they keep with it? I think first of all, we need to see Ferrari do well this year. I think they need to be, ideally, need to be the second best team in 2025 for them to have a chance to be the best team. Then again, you did see Ferrari come out of nowhere in real 2022, because 2021 was, were they the third best team technically? Yeah, I think, yeah. It was 2021. Oh, it's, hold on, 2021. And I know 2021, even, Leclerc didn't do a good job, and, Sainz was doing a better job and whatever. Let me see what happened. I just want to see the let's go. Ferrari was the third best team, and they did decently. They didn't win a race because Mercedes and Red Bull were dominating, but they got some good podiums. I think more so Carlos Sainz than Leclerc. Yeah, Leclerc had a second, whereas Sainz did have quite a few podiums, and then again, Leclerc came out of nowhere to be straight up dominating 2022, and leaving Sainz in dust. And then it's the other way around, I think, in 2023, where I think Sainz had a slightly better year, but then Leclerc came back. I don't know. Leclerc's just inconsistent, I feel, so that's really the problem. Again, I don't know. I don't think he's ready to win championships. Hamilton has to have a good car under him. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Hamilton signs 2025, 2026. We already confirmed multi-year. And then it's, after that, maybe he retires. Maybe he goes to somewhere else. I don't think he goes somewhere else, really. Like, you could go back to McLaren, I guess. I don't know, Norris dips and McLaren have a free seat or something, and they're like, why not? Yeah, sure. We don't have anyone else lined up. But then he would probably have to play second fiddle to Piastri, who's probably, I would expect at that point to be a pretty good driver, if he keeps improving. I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts I have about this Hamilton moving, and You know, it makes sense if it's a legacy move, but still, I would argue that like Mercedes is his legacy. Ferrari was Schumacher's team. Mercedes was Hamilton's team. Red Bull's Verstappen's team. Verstappen doesn't improve his legacy, for example, by moving to McLaren or Ferrari or something and more historic. You know, he's owned that team similar to how Vettel. I feel like even Vettel moving to Ferrari was a bit of a weird one. You know, I get like Red Bull is kind of dropping off, but still, you know, he was so, you know, obsessed with moving to Ferrari, and then look what Ferrari did to him. You know, look what how it hurt him. Ferrari hurt him pretty much, and yeah. I think, is it the same where Hamilton could come out Ferrari being like, I wasn't as good as I thought, or is he just going to be, I don't regret anything, I didn't win much? You know, he gets a few wins at least. I think he has a Ferrari has still won a race more recently than Mercedes. I think Mercedes could win races this year, or they could win races in 2025. It's really, the thing is, the difference between Ferrari and Mercedes is so like small, I feel at this point, like that it's a sideways move. Going from Mercedes to McLaren maybe would be a decent move, especially if McLaren show that they are good, then yeah, okay, cool. Going to Red Bull, yes, and that would be an upwards move. But I don't think, you know, Red Bull would like Hamilton on their team as alongside Verstappen. That would be just chaos, and like, what's the point of it? You know, they've already got a world champion caliber team, whereas McLaren go, all right, you know, you're better than Norris. But again, do the McLaren even go, we even sacrifice Norris? You know, they think Norris is probably going to be a good driver, so he's going to be a good driver for years to come. And Piastri is saying, they could probably say, yeah, Piastri isn't worth that much. He'll win a few championships for someone else, but you know, we've got Lewis Hamilton. It's worth it. You know, I think it's a fairly sideways move. So it's definitely a shocker. I just don't think it's a great move for him. It'll be interesting. It will be very interesting. And it'll be interesting to see that Australia is going to be the Ferrari, is going to be his Ferrari debut, because that's the first race of 2025. So glad about that. That's another probably silly season thing. I want to be there. I really want to be there. Speaking of which, I am going to Singapore Grand Prix in this year, later this year in September. So you know, get a bit of footage for that, probably record a video, you know, just a vlog style video. You won't know, we won't get complete vlog style footage, like, but I'll take some footage, I'll edit it in with me talking about it, kind of similar to one of my videos I did about my holiday. I won't get the chance to kind of sit in front of a camera and, you know, vlog, or even talk much at the, like, I'm not going to be like, yo, what's up, YouTube? I'm at the Singapore Grand Prix, you know. But anyway, so that should be interesting. I want to be there to see Lewis and Ferrari for his first race. That will be very, very interesting. It's very, very interesting, and still a shocker. Even though it's not like I don't think it's a great move. It's a shocking move. It's a big move. The internet exploded over it, and that makes sense. Well, F1 Twitter, even the whole internet. I think anybody who doesn't know much about F1 heard Hamilton to Ferrari. What the fuck? That's the two things they know: Ferrari and Hamilton. You know, that's like knowing, I don't know, the Lakers and Michael Jordan. You know, or the Lakers and LeBron, and they go, whoa. You know, you don't need to know much about F1 to know this is big. So yeah. In terms of Ferrari, you know, I was talking this kind of ruins one of my other kind of silly season predictions. Maybe not silly season predictions, but like looking at like the two options really Ferrari had was Ferrari signs for 2 more years because someone like Audi is not ready. Would Sainz have really wanted to go to Audi? And you know, now he might actually still. Or Sauber. I'm calling it Sauber. I'm not calling Stake. It's Sauber. It's Sauber team. I know Stakes. got the title sponsor, whatever. Or not even the title sponsor, they just straight up the name. I don't know why they completely dropped the Sauber. It would have been cool to see some like a Sauber colors again. But anyways, yeah. So I thought, yeah, maybe that's it. Now Sainz does have a move to make. I'll talk about where I think he's going a bit later on, or maybe some potential options for him, because I'm going to go team by team. And then I also thought, Behrman, I really think, and I'm doing this for quite a few. I've done a few similar predictions like this for multiple teams. Behrman straight to Ferrari, because you know what? I'm a little sick of guys straight up going to junior teams, and how beneficial is it for like someone like Haas or Alfa Romeo? You know, we're now Sauber, we're going to be Audi, but Audi are going to have their own engine supplier, so they're technically not going to be in Ferrari team. But no, for now, for next year, for example, they would be technically Sauber, or like Williams is to Mercedes, or I mean, Racing Bulls I kind of understand for Red Bull, but V Carb, I guess we should call them. I was expecting Behrman maybe could just, maybe they lose Sainz and go, we need someone for a few years. They would have either need someone for a few years, which they've now gotten Hamilton, which is good for it. They have Hamilton for 1-2 years, maybe 3, or 2 years, 2 or 3 years. I don't think they want to keep Hamilton longer than that. And I think Ferrari and Hamilton both mutually agreed on that. I think that helps Behrman, because then they put him somewhere else, which I'll talk about later. I think you guys know where probably Behrman's most likely to go now, but I'll talk a little about it. Sorry if I'm not looking at the camera as well. I'm looking at the my notes. I was like, I want that to happen, because I generally want like people to go to the top team, kind of like Piastri went to McLaren, or Lewis Hamilton went to McLaren and nearly fucking won the title in his first year. I feel like these guys, even Leclerc should have, maybe Leclerc could have skipped Sauber and gone straight to Ferrari. Maybe he did need that year of F1 in Sauber, but he was good. He was really good in Sauber. A lot of people don't remember, but he was nice. He was pretty solid. Again, same thing with Verstappen. First year in Toro Rosso. Decent. Very, very solid. And he's another guy who probably could have been ready for Red Bull, just promote. And again, they probably could have just gone Kvyat. But yeah, again, I get how I get why they do it. They don't want to put too much pressure. You see guys like Logan Sargent miss a year, or who should have been in one more year in F2, and now he got promoted too quickly. I'll talk about a bit about that later as well. But yeah, so I kind of wanted that, but whatever. Oh shit, I've talked about this for 40 minutes. Ferrari 40 minutes. This is the Ferrari podcast now. No. So that was my other prediction. I was like, I want Behrman to go straight to Ferrari. And he's not going to Ferrari straight away now. So, I mean, I guess it's good for him. He gets a bit of development in a team, but I think that team will not be competitive, so it'll be a bit of a waste of a few years. Like, if that team's maybe solid, not necessarily a top team, but a mid team, like a middle of the pack, then yeah, maybe it's good for him. But at the back of the pack, I don't know how much it teaches him, and you get him in a similar situation to Mick Schumacher, who's he didn't have much to work with that Haas, and look what that got him. You could argue he wasn't performing as much, but I think he had potential. But yeah, and yeah, I feel like it was a real snub that they. Oh god, my dogs are barking now. I might have to check this a bit. They're really angry. Maybe someone's come home, or someone's in the driveway, or my neighbors have come home, and you know how upset my dog. I know how much upset my dog's get, and probably if you have owned a dog, yeah, I think it's my parents coming back, or something like that. It's not a big difference, big issue. No one's breaking the house. Anyways, yeah. So I wanted that, and I would have been excited for just Behrman to be like in Ferrari in 2025. Skip all the extra steps. And I even think, like, imagine if Piastri went to Alpine and Alpine wasn't that good. I think people would be saying, even including Alpine, would be saying, "Oh, Piastri's such a bomb." No, not a bomb. What am I thinking? It's deal, or there's a word for it. I forget what it is. But yeah, they're saying, "Oh, Piastri is just so hyped. Look, he's doing nothing." I'm like, because the team, the team's shit. I still think Piastri probably could have got points in Alpine, but obviously he would have been in worse position, say than McLaren, who midway through the year, Anyways, that's the problem I think I have with Ferrari not signing, just going, you know what, Behrman's good, especially if Behrman wins the championship this year, which is pretty good opportunity. If Behrman didn't, or Behrman was not looking at it, then you might go like, okay, sure, he does need a few more years. But if he won the championship, like, why not just promote your junior straight to your team? And like save the junior teams for people that maybe haven't exactly proven themselves, but they have potential, and you want to see how they're going, And then also, like, where do the junior teams, what do they have to gain for having someone for 2 years, then losing them? Wouldn't the junior teams prefer someone that they could potentially keep, But anyways, again, that disrupts the status quo. The status quo is you put a guy in a junior team, but whatever. I'll rant about this a few times because I've got a few things to mention as well. Maybe a few ones that are quite likely. In fact, we'll talk about actually Mercedes next, because wow, oh wow. This has been a doozy for Mercedes. Mercedes did not know until everybody else knew. There was no rumors of Mercedes knowing, that's the funny thing, that Ferrari kept this so hush-hush. It hasn't leaked earlier. Wow, oh wow. I'm surprised with something like Ferrari that didn't leak. So Mercedes did not know. And now I think this is where this kicks off silly season, because I already said we needed a Hamilton retiring like 2 years ago, where Mercedes still had a decent car, and after 2021, the cars, you think, oh, you're Hamilton, Mercedes is still elite team. What the fuck is wrong with my dog? Anyways, maybe I'll check that in a second. Where's my dogs that bark? I don't know. I'll check in a bit, maybe, if they don't stop barking. I think. Hold on. Someone's getting out of the car, so I should stop in a bit. Yeah, and there's the door opening, the front door. I'm surprised I can hear that. The front door's quite a bit away from where I am, but I guess this is a house where just sound carries, which is a bit annoying because I want to be in my room and no one hear me. But probably the whole house can hear me sometimes, and streaming, even when I'm streaming, they hear me and tell me to shut up because it's too late. Still sometimes. Anyways, I'll move out eventually, in a year or two I'll move out, so whatever. Then I'll have to worry about like fucking neighbors hearing me, especially if I'm like in an apartment or something. And they'll be fucking pissed off with noise complaints. I don't have a quiet voice. I don't have an inside voice. Anyways, that's calmed down. So I was thinking again, when Mercedes was a really good car, and still, that was still like the lead seat. If Lewis retired, everybody would be jumping a Mercedes. Maybe even Verstappen. No, probably not Verstappen. Even then, after 2021, Red Bull was something crazy, Verstappen knew the Red Bull was good and they were going to continue, and he had true faith in Red Bull. And why would you leave the team that technically gave you a championship? So, but anyways, so I was thinking like something like Hamilton retiring either last year or the year before would have been insane, and not just I'm retiring at the end of the year, which is kind of what he's doing with, I'm saying I'm moving to Ferrari in 2025. That gives Mercedes plenty of time technically. I was looking at more, he retires over the winter, and then, it's full panic mode because Mercedes needs a second driver. Who are they going to get? And it's like, do they scramble a bit? Now they get a bit more time to maybe look at some potential other drivers as well, which is interesting. So Mercedes have a full year to really look at who they want. And I think this is the thing that's interesting with Mercedes. Even though Mercedes isn't probably the destination anymore, they're still a top 3-4 team. Depends where McLaren is, depends where Ferrari is. They're still the top of the ranking, top of the food chain. Not the absolute top, but close up there, and they've had some recent success. They're still a team that hasn't fallen back, because the team that have fallen a few paces back, but they haven't fallen back to the back of the grid. Sorry, like say Williams have, and how they fell from grace, obviously winning even as recently as the 90s, and they slowly started to dip that, but that was a longer period of time. That still might happen with Mercedes. But still, I think it's still a destination. So you actually generally think of how many people would look at Mercedes, and it's a decent amount of the grid. A lot of people would be vying for that. A lot of people on the grid and currently not on the grid. Let's look. I think, for example, Checo is potentially losing his seat. Maybe he'll have a look. I'm thinking Sainz. Obviously, Sainz is going to lose his. Lando, you could see Lando potentially. I think he's more prefers McLaren, but it's still an option. McLaren might think, Norris might think about Mercedes for a second, so I'm even going to include him. You look at Ocon, Gasly. You look at Bottas has a sniff. Zhao has a sniff. Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg. God, at this point, Ricciardo might have a sniff of it. I don't know if Yuki Tsunoda, but if you're Yuki Tsunoda, you might be thinking, where's my future? I think it's more with Aston Martin or potentially Red Bull, but, I think more Aston Martin with Honda. Anyways, Albon, you look at Albon, you look at, Logan Sargent, Mercedes aren't going to call Logan Sargent up, but he's gonna have a go. He's gonna try his best. I think Fernando Alonso, maybe Stroll. I think who are the only people that really wouldn't? Okay, obviously Russell's still there. Hamilton's decided no. Max Verstappen wouldn't. Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, and I'm missing one more driver. Who else really wouldn't? I'm missing one more driver. There's one more driver I'm missing. Who's the unlucky bastard I'm missing? Oh God. Need to tone down language. Yeah. No, but I'm thinking probably, God, 3/4 of the grid would at least think about it. Think about joining Mercedes. I mean, it's an upwards move for them. Maybe not the smartest move for them, but, still, it might be an upwards move. And everybody wants to go up the grid. So I think at this point, the only people who don't want to look at Mercedes are the people who have a guaranteed spot in Ferrari, a guaranteed spot in Red Bull. Ricardo might, for example, who's a good lock for the 2025 Red Bull, might even look, am I going to get that Red Bull? Especially when there's other rumors around the place as well. So, yeah, I'm thinking and then I think there's two other options who aren't even on the grid. Vettel, for example. I think Vettel, wherever you put Vettel, is a boost, because I think Vettel's so good at developing a car, and you saw with Aston Martin, they got better. They really got better, and I really put that down to Vettel and his expertise and his experience. I think it's not all his, but yeah, I think if you had Vettel and Mercedes come 2026 registrations, Mercedes would be in a bit better position. They might not keep Vettel for that long, or maybe they'll keep him for 2025, 2026, 2027 maybe, and he's another good short-term option for Mercedes. I think also Kimi Antonelli. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, I think he's, again, it's the same issue of they're probably going to put him in a junior team, but I think it's also an option. Let's see how he does, how he's doing midway through. Let's see how he does. Maybe you want to keep it till the last minute, go, let's see the whole championship, and then sign him once the F2 is done, or whatever, considering how he does. F2 is a beast. It's a whole different beast to a lot of the other junior series. So, I mean, it's probably not expected that he wins the championship. He did. And Mercedes should sign him. But I get the feeling that Mercedes is probably going to decide who their second driver is a bit more recently than that. They're a bit in panic mode. But anyways. So who's realistic in who they look at? I think Daniel Ricciardo. Oh, and Mick Schumacher, of course. Mick Schumacher being the reserve. I think Daniel Ricciardo, I'm not going to say Alonso, but potentially I'm going to give half a point, just holds the finger up kind of half, and this isn't just because I have a dodgy finger. No, there's my finger. Don't worry, I haven't lost my finger. I'm sorry. That's probably mocking people who have lost a finger or something. No, but anyways, let's say no. Let's not say them. Let's say Daniel Ricciardo. Good, he's looked at Mercedes before. There's been a few rumors of him maybe potentially going with Mercedes, especially before he really gained traction for Red Bull seat. I think Daniel Ricciardo would definitely be sniffing around Mercedes if Red Bull decided on someone else for 2025. Still a good chance for 2025 Red Bull though, so I'll talk about that later as well. Also, I forgot to say with Ferrari, Leclerc extending isn't surprising. It's interesting though that he continued to extend even with Hamilton, because he knows he gives up the number one seat, the number one spot, because any team Hamilton goes to, he is the number one driver really. So interesting they still signed knowing that Hamilton was going to continue, but again, they're probably not expecting Hamilton to go for too long. That was one of the other contract extensions that I saw while I was planning this video, and I was like, well, okay, not as surprising, but anyways, the other contract extension was a bit surprising. So I think Mercedes go for Ricciardo. I think they look at Mick. He's a safe hands. He knows the Mercedes. He's potentially someone that only stays for a year or two, and he supports Russell while we see what happens with Kimi or something. you know, it depends. Maybe need Kimi, maybe need Mick for 3 years and then Kimi. I don't say Kimi. Antonelli. Let's say Antonelli replaces him. I think you're looking at. I don't want to say Ocon, but Ocon's maybe a good. Ocon's a good like driver you can have for a few years while you wait for Antonelli. I think Antonelli's a good chance. I still think he's a very a lower chance than a lot of drivers, but I still don't think Mercedes is set on someone complete. I think you have Sainz as well. That's 5. Potentially you just replace. He goes to Mercedes and then he goes to maybe Audi, when Audi's ready to have a car that's competing for championships, and then Mercedes gets Antonelli. But so I think it's not unless Antonelli really does terribly in F2 and he proves that he's not the superstar, the wonder boy that everybody thinks he's going to be at Mercedes, and he doesn't do well for F2, I think it's a lock that Antonelli gets into that Mercedes seat, unless he leaves, for example, and goes to Ferrari. Ferrari's kind of pitching to him, you're Italian, we need a good Italian driver in our team. That would be a fucking amazing, like, imagine how much Italy would just explode. That would explode more than Hamilton going to Ferrari. Anyways, I shouldn't use words like this, but they would be off their rockers. they would think that is so amazing. Tifosi would be so happy. I'm like, I've mentioned Ocon, I think. Who's another good driver that they could potentially get? Maybe Alonso. Maybe Alonso's, again, a dark horse prediction. I think there's probably about 6, which is basically the same 6 that a lot of people have been talking about. But here's the thing I think with Mercedes is just anybody, really. It could be anybody, and I think, and again, 2/3, 3/4 of the grid will be looking at Mercedes. There's a lot of guys, I think, like Logan Sargent, who Mercedes won't look back. They won't fucking answer his phone calls. They might out of respect for him, and that he is technically one of the 20 best drivers in the world, arguable. I make my thoughts on Logan Sargent a bit more clear than anything, but he's still he's an elite driver. He's an elite driver. He's way faster than me. He's way faster than probably a few people in F2. He's way quite a few. Most people in F2 actually, probably. He's still faster than that. He's obviously fast. I think he's probably faster than De Vries, for example, faster than people in Formula E, faster than whatever. He's still an elite driver. I just don't know if he's F1 material. I think Mercedes would probably answer it and politely say no. Same thing with guys like, I don't think Kevin Magnussen. Hulkenberg, I think, is another pick that I think Mercedes could go for, because I think Hulkenberg wants podiums, and I don't think he's going to get podiums with Haas. I think that's the one thing Haas needs to tick off his F1 bucket list, is a podium or a win even. I don't think he's going to get a win, but I think he could get a podium in a fairly competitive team. And I think that's why Hulkenberg would look at Mercedes, and then Mercedes also need to look at, hey, you're some guy who could play second fiddle to Russell, and Hulkenberg would probably be okay with that, unless Hulkenberg gets into Mercedes and starts outclassing Russell. Russell's had some questionable performance recently, so God, I've talked about Mercedes and Ferrari and this whole Hamilton stuff for way too long. We'll wrap it up, start talking about it a little bit more in a second. This wasn't going to be as long until we obviously heard the Hamilton news. It's like, whoa. I think Hulkenberg's another pick, potentially. So, yeah, it should be interesting where Mercedes goes. Part of me kind of hopes they promote Antonelli, but even then, Antonelli will only have a year of F2, whereas in 2025, Behrman would have had 2 years F2, so he might have been more ready to go straight to Ferrari. And Antonelli's, he'll only be 18, which doesn't really matter considering, how early on even Verstappen was doing well in F1, and, even Stroll at a young age did fairly well at Force India. Williams. He got a podium. That was a bit of a luck podium, but still, it takes a lot to get a pole, and it takes a lot to get a podium in your first year. Even if it is in the wet, even if it is with a Williams that does good in the wet, it's impressive. And obviously a few other factors, I think. Yeah, he got a pole. Did he? I don't know. Well, anyways, I don't know if he got a pole. I know he got a pole a few years ago, but that might have been more in Racing Point. Yeah, something like that. But I know he got that podium in his first year, which is pretty impressive. Whatever. We'll see what happens with that. And now it's about an hour. let's dedicate 30 minutes to everything else. So it should be interesting to see what happens with Mercedes. Maybe I should have waited a bit longer, but yeah, we want to do this silly season preview because we kind of missed a silly season special last year, and we'll still probably do we'll still do a bit more another silly season kind of review later in the year when everything's kind of set. Not talk about Hamilton because we've already talked about Hamilton, but we can briefly talk about it and review that move considering where Ferrari is and going, maybe Ferrari actually will have a competitive car in 2025, or they'll nail the regulation in 2026. Actually Ferrari's looking impressive, or Mercedes is looking impressive. I hope Lewis has the option to avoid his contract and stay with Mercedes. I don't think he can walk back on that Ferrari contract now, and I think it would be a bad look if he did. But anyways, the other thing I've been hearing about Red Bull, and I wonder if there is any updates. No, it's a bit of the night for Europe, so I don't think there would be much going on. But yeah, last update for that was about 8 hours ago. It makes sense. Okay. Red Bull. I've heard rumors of Red Bull, and I'm almost willing to go, that's bullshit. I don't know. But then again, I said Lewis to Ferrari was bullshit. I was like, fucking, all that bullshit again. Yeah, of course. Of course, Hamilton's going for Ferrari. That's what you all want to believe. I'm hearing rumors, and again, you've probably seen these also on Twitter. If anyone's watching this, I don't think they are, but it's all good because I've talked about Mercedes and Ferrari for so long. Hey, maybe my voice is soothing enough that you guys don't mind, and you put this in on the background. I don't expect you to kind of sit there and intently watch. Again, this is more background noise. I expect a podcast like this to be background noise, and I expect most podcasts would be more background noise than anything. Anyways, I've been hearing rumors of Albon has been offered a 3-year contract at Red Bull starting 2025. I don't know if that him and Red Bull have been talking. He's not sure yet, but Red Bull has gone, here's the contract if you want to sign it. I don't know if this is complete utter bollocks. Trying to change my language up instead of just swearing. Normally I would say has not much to it, but the fact that Peter Windsor has been bold enough to say the contract has been given. Not accepted yet, but it's been put on the table. I don't think it's too out of the picture because, again, I don't think Helmut Marko, I still feel like Albon hasn't burned Red Bull like, again, they helped Red Bull win a championship. Again, you think even 2021, his simulator work and reserve driver duties and stuff would have helped Red Bull. And he was a part of that team. You know, you probably put more focus on Verstappen and a bit on Checo, but Albon had a say in that. He helped Red Bull. He only left Red Bull because he had a better opportunity, and, you know, Helmut Marko's not stupid, you know. He would have been like, yeah, okay, fair enough. He's getting a better opportunity. We don't expect him to just sit around in a reserve thing. They probably worked together to or get him that Williams seat, and Williams was happy to get him. So, you know, probably mutually for all parties, it was a good compromise. But I think, obviously, we've heard Helmut Marko go, I am impressed with Albon at Williams, blah, blah. I wouldn't put it out of the picture. It's not something I would have. I didn't actually have it on my list just because of Albon previously saying, or he might not be interested in going back to Red Bull. And I'll talk a bit more about Albon, maybe even soon. Maybe we'll go through the top teams first before you go into teams like Williams. Man, that would be quite a shocking turn of events. Man, oh man. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. I don't think it's the best move for Albon. And I think it's a bit of a weird move because it's not, I don't think he would have a future with Red Bull. I think Red Bull are eventually going to promote Lawson. I think Lawson's just already shown he is good. He is Red Bull's next star driver, or maybe not even star driver. Maybe he's not championship quality, but he's good. He's good. And especially when he gets into that Red Bull seat, if Verstappen's still there, he's a good second driver to Verstappen. Hey, if when Verstappen leaves, Red Bull have got a comfortable set of hands for Lawson. The only thing could be if Lawson or if Verstappen retires. Yeah, and then it's Red Bull could potentially have Albon and Lawson. You know, Albon, you know, maybe it's more the star driver. I think he's probably got a chance for a championship. So if Red Bull are a good team, then maybe Albon could win a championship with Red Bull. We don't know. And then Lawson could, you know, continue to develop, continue to maybe challenge Albon, and, you know, eventually Albon leaves and then Red Bull's Lawson's team. Possibly. But for now, yeah, Albon, interesting rumor. I want to wait a few days to see what happens. It'll be crazy if, because, and I think they're saying, oh yeah, Mercedes. I was thinking Albon's another option for Mercedes, because I think this is another defensive move. So they've basically scrambled because they don't want Mercedes to have Albon, which makes me think maybe there is a bit of traction there. Again, this rumor could be complete nonsense. Do I trust that it was just casually said in like a Q&A style video? Like it's if you think he had more than that, then like he would actually like post it on Twitter, or he'd actually, you know, someone would write an article about it or whatever. Peter Winsor just casually just dropped it. I do think, again, this maybe blocks off Mercedes from signing Albon. I don't think Albon really had that much of a chance of Mercedes. I don't think he was going to Mercedes, but maybe he is. And Red Bull's deciding, hey, we can do you one better. Mercedes is good, but Red Bull is great. That should be the slogan. They're like the slander slogan. You know how fucking the sorry, swearing again. The political parties will you know, slander each other, and sometimes they'll be like, this is what we do great, but some of the advertisements or whatever, the poster will be like, oh, do you want blah blah to run your country and increase taxes, and, you know, choose us because we don't do that. You know, something like Red Bull would be like, you know, Mercedes hasn't won for a while, we just won the championship, Who do you want to choose? But yeah, so could be interesting. A lot of things I was looking at. Obviously, Verstappen's. I think other possibilities for Red Bull, for example, Verstappen's probably not going to retire. He's probably not going to retire after the 2024 season unless Red Bull gets something massively wrong and really screw him over. I doubt it. A few DNFs, a few DNFs this year, like a bit of trouble. Look, because again, Red Bull this Red Bull team didn't pass the safety test at first, or the FIA safety tests, or whatever. So I think they are going to have a bit of reliability issues. I wouldn't be surprised if again Red Bull broke down a few times. Didn't have as ideal of a year, but they're still probably good enough to win the championship. Maybe make it a bit more likely for McLaren to have a chance. To consider it, if McLaren's obviously still competitive, or Ferrari, for example, or Mercedes. What happens if Mercedes wins his eighth title before he even goes to Ferrari? Ferrari would be panicking, because you would think after that, then it's like maybe Lewis just goes, I've got my 8th, I'm retiring. That would be interesting. But no, I think Verstappen stays. Ricciardo's the next most possible likelihood scenario for Red Bull. I think, Ricciardo, Ricciardo is probably the main competitor. Again, he could go to Mercedes. He could ditch Red Bull completely and go, I'm not confident enough in you guys. Or Ricciardo hears too many rumors. Or again, Red Bull decide, we've got a few more better options than Ricciardo. Well, let's not go for Ricciardo. I want to put out as well potential for a Vettel return to Red Bull. I don't know. I would have thought if Vettel was going to return, he would have done it this season. But 2025 is still a decent timeline for him. I don't think he waits until 2026 regulations. I think if anything, if he's going to return to any team, it's probably going to be in 2025. Possibly 2026, but I'm probably maybe putting out a low likelihood. Hold on, let me just check something real quick, because I want to kind of see how I'm going in terms of a few things. What the fuck? That's odd. Anyways, I'll have to do something about that. Sorry, just my blood sugar. I'm probably not in the best position to actually make a podcast, and maybe I'll re-record this, because I'm a high blood sugar does not do great for my concentration, my attention span, all that, and just makes my brain a bit fuzzy. But still, whatever. And I also didn't probably have a great night's sleep last night. So yeah, potentially we could get Vettel to Red Bull. I'll mention Vettel as like a dark horse for like a few teams actually. Not every team, don't worry. Only a few teams. Could we potentially get Vettel being interested, and then maybe Red Bull like, well, you are a former world champion, Ricciardo isn't. But I don't know how much substance that actually has. Another dark horse thing that could happen for Red Bull is maybe they just get rid of Checo and they decide, you know what, Lawson straight to Red Bull. He's had a few races in AlphaTauri. We like him. Maybe he ends up having another race in VCARB this year as well, in case something happens, or give him a few, maybe even give him a practice session. I know he doesn't qualify for that, for the FP1, the rookies that have done less than 2 races, but they could still give him a session. I think they'll give him testing, and maybe it's like he is ready for Red Bull. That would be crazy. That would be quite something I like. Say VCARB for, say, like Iwasa, for example. Because they still need to see what they want to do with Iwasa. But we'll talk a little bit about that later. So I also, as well as an option I put on for Red Bull, Norris. Don't think that's happening. I think Norris could look at Mercedes, but I think he's ruled out Red Bull. He's like, no, I don't want to go to Red Bull. I'm staying with McLaren. Doesn't mean he's not going to have a look at Mercedes. You might not expect that. It might be like, I'm not willing to go up against Verstappen. Maybe I'd go up against Russell. Maybe I'm more confident against Russell than I am against Piastri or something. Because Piastri is a threat. You really got to think, if you are anybody going up against Piastri and you're seeing how well he did in his first year, he's still got a few things to improve on, but if he improves, I think he could be a multiple-time world champion, Piastri. So he's got a lot of potential, and like, do you want to go up against that? Are you as Norris just in potential place of, if you go to Verstappen, you're facing a world champion straight away. If you stay at McLaren, you're facing a world championship caliber driver in a few years. Like, obviously, he's probably more confident with Piastri because it's like he'll think he'll still have the upper hand on him because, he's been in McLaren longer, and Norris in his head is thinking, I'm a multiple-time world a championship caliber driver. I just need the right car, which maybe we'll see. Anyways, and I looked at Yuki. Yuki's another possibility, I think, for Red Bull. I think he's more Honda bound, where he probably is going more where Honda's gone. I'll talk about that a bit later. Well, not actually later. I probably want to wrap this up in 15, 30 minutes. Really rushing everything. But we are talking, I guess the main preview was, I think the big point of this silly season is probably going to be Ferrari, Mercedes, and like, if someone leaves another team to go to Mercedes, then there'll be a gap in that team. And it's just a chain reaction, similar to like when the Ferrari dropped Vettel, for example, and and things happened. Obviously, signs to Ferrari. And then I'm just thinking, signs to Ferrari, which then opened Danny Ricciardo to go to McLaren, and then Alonso coming back into the sport with Alpine, I think. Yeah, no, that's what happened. Yeah, no, it's because Alonso is there for 2 years. Alpine, yeah. I'm getting the timeline right. Okay, yeah. Sorry. So I think Yuki is still a possibility. Maybe Yuki decides to more go with Red Bull rather than Honda, and you decide. Yuki saves her hands. I think I would rate Ricciardo higher than Yuki, but it's up to Ricciardo. It's up to Red Bull. Maybe they're more confident in Yuki, and they still know Yuki can. What the fuck's going on out there? Someone doing something around the pool area or something? I don't know. Anyways, Hulkenberg, I also think is another option for Red Bull. I think, again, Red Bull are looking only for someone for a few years because Lawson comes straight into the team. Again, Verstappen might just retire after 2028, which is probably means that, but they don't know that. Again, Verstappen could go all the way till 2030 or 2031. He could sign one more contract after the 2028. He might be like, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm getting closer to 8 world titles or 7 world titles, whatever. And he's like, yep, sure, I want to beat the record. I don't think Verstappen's too focused on that. But hey, and Hulkenberg's a good stopover, because how long is Hulkenberg really going to stay in the sport? It'll be crazy if we talk about Hulkenberg so much and he just decides, nope, I'm going to retire. I don't think he's ready to retire. I think he's enjoying F1 and he feels like he has some traction, whatever. Um, but yeah, that was my kind of what Red Bull could do. I think Red Bull has a decent amount of options. Again, some more likely than others. I like the Red Bull room, the Albon to Red Bull rumor. I would be interested to see what happens with that. Imagine if he actually signed the dotted line like tomorrow, the next day, and like already we have okay Albon for 2025 till 2027 or something. Something like that. That'll be interesting. All right, let's go. Let's move it. Let's go like downwards. We could kind of talk about a few other. I was planning on talking about a few of the worst teams first, and then talking about that. But I'm looking. We've looked at Red Bull. We've looked at Ferrari. We've looked at Mercedes because they're really getting the brunt of the silly season so far. McLaren. I mean, this is a pretty like boring like segment on McLaren because I don't think they're going to change. I mean, they're one of the teams I don't think that's going to change, whereas I think some teams possibly could drop both of theirs, or one person leaves, the other person they drop. I've got a few picks for teams that maybe might drop both of their teams. Drop both. I don't know. Anyways, I think so. We were going to go replacing Norris, dark horse. I don't think McLaren want to replace Norris anymore. They've given him a contract. I think it's more possible. The only real possibility with Norris leaving is if he leaves to Mercedes. I don't think he's going to leave for Red Bull. He might change his mind because he didn't know about the whole Mercedes thing and goes woo, But I think he's more confident with McLaren at the moment, and it's hard to know with Mercedes. Maybe they just go downhill after they lose Hamilton, Maybe Toto retires. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to talk about. With Mercedes, potentially Toto could retire. We think about drivers in terms of silly season, but what about team bosses? What about staff? That we didn't talk about last year. Okay, there's no driver chances, but there was a lot of team staff changes. That's something a lot of people underrated, because I know the drivers are the guys who actually drive the cars and whatever. We kind of forget about the guys who actually make the cars and, make the teams and stuff. But yeah, I think, is it possibly that Toto could also retire now? Or does Toto stick around to see the development of Antonelli maybe? Maybe it's more of like Toto's I feel like he's not a ticking time bomb, but I think it's sooner or later, I reckon Toto's going to make a change in his career, and he's still going to be with Mercedes, but he might take a different role. And then we get a new team boss at Mercedes. I think there's going to be a change of guard eventually. I don't think Toto gets fired, especially when he does own a decent amount of Mercedes. Kind of hard to fire someone who owns a part of you. But anyways, unless, again, Toto does really stink up the place and some of the other stakeholders go, or he gets forced out, whatever. But I think it's more likely that Toto maybe does retire fairly soon. Maybe he's got a few more years in him now that Lewis has left, because I think it was, although he's saying the pact of Lewis is when Lewis is done, I'm done kind of thing. Now he's like, oh, maybe I'll stay a few years and, watch develop the next generation of Mercedes and Russell and I don't know, something like that. But anyways, similar to how I think Horner leaves Red Bull after Verstappen retires, and he's just like, you know what? I've had a good run with Verstappen. I've had a good run with Vettel. Good luck to Lawson or whoever's in there. Anyways, yeah, okay. So we're getting a bit. This episode's getting a bit long, so we'll start speeding some things up. Let's move on to Aston Martin. So Aston Martin, I feel like the big rumor with Aston Martin, the big thing that could happen is there's a possibility. Look, here's the thing. This is the biggest possibility of where Aston Martin is. We don't know where Aston Martin have they bounced back to their kind of early 2023 kind of form, or even better. I still believe in the 5-year plan, so I think they're going to improve. I think they're going to be quite competitive in 2024, and I think they still have a good chance of winning the championship in 2025. But so let's assume that they're competitive, they don't decline. I think for Aston Martin, I think a lot of people are thinking Stroll is going to get dropped because they need someone in the WEC series. That's the only reason, not because he's not performing. I think there's a potential that, compared to Alonso, he's not performing, and even his dad goes, I don't know about this. But yeah, I think it's more likely that they give Lance the WEC seat, the Aston Martin Valkyrie driving that for the 2025 WEC season and beyond. I think that would be a really good place for Stroll, and I really think it would be really good for Aston Martin, because Aston Martin do now have a former F1 driver in your WEC, a very recent former F1 driver in your WEC. Again, Lance Stroll. Lance would probably be a bit upset, maybe. I don't think he would decline the option of having that Aston Martin. He wouldn't go, fuck you, screw you, Dad. I'm out of here. You never believed in me. And like, has a complete tantrum. I almost wouldn't be surprised if maybe he went off somewhere else. He going, I don't want to go to WEC. I'm going to play tennis or whatever. Or he decides to get another seat somewhere else. Or he sniffs around. He keeps sniffing around F1. I don't think he's going to get another F1 seat after this if he gets dropped by someone. But anyways. And then that does raise the question of Yuki versus Drugovich. Yuki Tsunoda versus Felipe Drugovich. Who do they pick? And I feel like this is really unfair in some ways, because I think Drugovich, he was next in line. He's next in line. He's and I'm saying this in more of a playground, like assuming F1's fair. F1 is not fair. But he is next in line. I think he's solid. I think he's a good driver. The only thing that I think maybe lets Drugovich down is that Yuki would probably be better as like sort of a second driver to Alonso, say if they were competing in 2025. So I think that will be the real big thing. Possibly Alonso leaves, they sign both Yuki and Drugovich. Easy. Do they even milk the hell out of Yuki being in the racing bull for a year? Honda like, we haven't left yet. We're keeping Yuki in there. And then Red Bull go, all right. And then boom. He stays there for a year and whatever. It's then, okay, you have Drugovich. And then if Yuki wants to get into that seat, they're going to have to either fire Alonso or wait until Alonso leaves. But the thing about Yuki that I find is a little unfair is just the pressure Honda are gonna probably put on Aston Martin, similar to they do to Red Bull. I mean, Yuki wasn't a bad pick for Racing Bulls. Who would have been better? I don't know, Dennis Hauger? I think Dennis Hauger wasn't ready, but like again, has Dennis Hauger been better for the seat? The only thing I would potentially say is Lawson really should have that seat over Yuki this year. I mean, come on. V-Carb. Let's say V-Carb. Whatever. I think Yuki was good for V-Carb. It's a good option. But for Aston Martin, like, you have other options. I just feel like it's unfair for Honda to go, as a part of our deal, we're pushing a team on you. It's nearly in the same way. It's kind of like, I own this team, so my son gets a drive. I just feel like, that kind of nepotism kind of aspect is a bit annoying. And again, sorry if you heard anything. If you're just listening to audio, I just adjusted my chair. So yeah, that's the other thing that's a bit unfair about it. Would Yuki be better than the Aston Martin? Probably. But should it go more to Drogovic? Again, we could see both of them. Again, 2024, the car isn't great. Stroll goes to WEC, Alonso retires, or he goes elsewhere. Maybe he goes Mercedes. He maybe decides, screw this shit. Aston Martin's not doing me any good. Let's try one more time with Mercedes. That would be interesting. Very, very interesting. Imagine Alonso going to Mercedes and winning a championship in 2025 and 2026. And Lewis is like, I should have left. That would be the ultimate just like middle finger from Alonso to Lewis. And I feel like that would be like, that might turn the tides. I feel like obviously, it's never going to be, we're never going to discount that Lewis had 7 titles, blah, blah, Alonso's never going to be better than Lewis. But then there's sort of things like, what if Alonso did win him a few titles? Maybe he could have been better than Lewis. Maybe he did beat Lewis to a championship, and in his former team, and there'll be a few question marks about Lewis and his legacy. Whereas Alonso retires on top of that rivalry. I don't think that rivalry is as prominent though. So yeah. So that's what I'm looking at Aston Martin. I think it should be interesting to see what goes on. I don't have a definitive answer of what I think is going to go on, but again, should be interesting to see. I hope it's not the boring option of both Alonso and Stroll stay. I hope Alonso stays. I do want him to win with Aston Martin. I'd love for him to win the 2025 title with Aston Martin. That would be great. But I would like Stroll to go personally. So yeah, no. Anyways. Now we're over the 1 hour 30 mark. I've only got a few teams to go. Surprisingly, I've got a few things to say about Sauber. Whatever, Steak F1, whatever. But first we've got Alpine. I think Alpine could have a turbulent, silly season. I really think there's a possibility you replace both Gasly and Ocon, or 2, Ocon leaves, you replace Gasly. Or Gasly maybe leaves. Maybe Gasly for Mercedes? I doubt it. I doubt Mercedes would look at Gasly. That was the other person I probably missed, Gasly. So no, there are probably about 4 people who would not say no to a Mercedes seat. Including the 2 Ferrari drivers, the 2 Ferrari drivers, the current Mercedes driver, and Verstappen, who's pretty much guaranteed a Red Bull seat. Why would he go to Mercedes? That would be such a downwards like decision. Anyways, but yeah, so for Alpine, I think they could lose both their drivers, whether they decide to get rid of 1 or 2, get rid of both, get rid of 1, lose 1, get rid of another, lose both, whatever. All the different possibilities for them. I still think there's a possibility that could happen. Now, what I think is probably more possible is Ocon does leave. I think Ocon has a few options. Ocon's maybe might not believe in Alpine, whereas like Gasly, I think could be like, this is the best I've got, and obviously Ferrari's closed the door, and maybe Mercedes declines him, so it's like, okay, whatever. And then Alpine's just like, okay, we need at least one set of hands on deck. Which is where my other thing, the other thing I was talking about, similar to Aston Martin, I think then Alpine have got a decision. Or maybe even a 3-way decision. I'm more saying a 2-way. I think there's a future for the 3rd, but maybe that's not in 2025. What I think is Alpine has a decision then. If they lose either one, if they lose both, easy. You just use the 2 like kind of reserve drivers you've got. I say reserve as in that Mick obviously is in reserve, but he's practically already got his foot in the Alpine family because, he's driving WEC for them. And then Doohan is the actual reserve. Who wins out in that situation? I just wonder, do you go for Mick? Do you go for Doohan? It would be an interesting team seeing them both in the team, but it's almost like it would be weird if they were competing with each other for that one seat, potentially. Again, Alpine could be boring and just stick with both of them. That's the other possibility. But I think there's going to be at least one change in Alpine. I think with the new management and the new staff, and they're just willing to mix things up. Or again, Ocon, for example, goes and jumps ship. But yeah, it should be interesting to see who will lose out on that. And look, if you're Alpine and Mick does a good job for you, maybe go Mick. But then that's not fair on Doohan in the same way as it wouldn't be fair for Drogovic, because Doohan has been around there for a while and he's been waiting for his turn. Again, it's not like that. Like, it's like, oh, it's my turn. It's my turn in the Alpine. I kind of had an Aussie accent, like the Aussie Doohan accent. It's my turn in the Alpine. That's more Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo would not go back to Alpine. No. So, but then again, do you turn your back on some guy you've been developing for Mick Schumacher? Again, maybe that the option is a lot easier for Alpine if Mick goes to Mercedes. That's the other thing. And then you go, okay, Doohan. But why do I almost feel like Alpine would promote Martins, especially if Martins, I don't know, either or, before they promote Doohan because, the French bias and shit. But again, different management. It's not as much French management anymore, but maybe they look at the brand and go, and Martins is doing well. But I still feel like it's Doohan's seat to lose if one of the Alpine drivers goes somewhere else, or they fire an Alpine driver or whatever. And he's a lock. I think he's a lock for a seat if both of them leave. So it should be interesting to see what happens there. Only a few teams to go. Racing Bulls, or VCARP. Well, I think they've confirmed they've. Let's just call them Racing Bulls. I know the RB doesn't stand for Racing Bulls, but whatever. Racing Bulls. Lawson, I think if he doesn't get the Red Bull seat, he's guaranteed. I don't think Ricciardo stays in that team much longer than this season. I'm honestly even surprised they kept him for that one last season. They wanted to maybe free up the seat for someone who, for an actual rookie. But yeah, I think Ricciardo's gone. Lawson's that. Lawson's the lock. I think this is also an interesting thing to look at. Is could Iwasa also maybe join if Yuki leaves for Honda, or they part ways with Yuki, mutually part ways, or Yuki again just leaves straight up to go to Honda with Aston Martin. Would Iwasa stay in the system if Honda poaches Yuki again? Yuki decides, yeah, I'm sticking with Honda. I've got more future in Aston Martin, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Does Iwasa stay? I think Iwasa could honestly look at it and go, where is my opportunities with Honda? Maybe I just more permanently join the Red Bull family. And he says goodbye. But then again, it could be the opposite way around. Iwasa decides to stick with Honda and potentially look for an Aston Martin spot where Yuki goes, I'm fully committed to Red Bull. I don't know. Maybe it would make more sense for Iwasa to be more committed to Honda, where Yuki's more committed to Red Bull. Interesting little kind of scenario there. The other thing that also comes with the whole announcement of VCarb, and I had some ideas of this planned before even that occurred. Could we see a non-Red Bull junior join the team again? If, say, obviously Ricardo leaves because, they're not going to let Ricardo, even if Ricardo doesn't get that Red Bull seat, it's over for Red Bull, Ricardo in the junior team. He shouldn't really be in the junior team even now. But obviously they're leaving him there for the experience, for the F1 experience, to be a placeholder maybe for, and to get some good publicity, some positive publicity into the team. And, he's good PR, and he's good for the overall image of the team. And I think, for example, Visa and Cash App would like him. But here's my other idea with Racing Bulls. Now that Visa and Cash App are title sponsors for the team, could it be possible that, potentially we see an American driver join the team? Maybe not someone like Logan Sargent, for example, but maybe an IndyCar driver, maybe a Herder, Colton Herder again. I'm going to talk a bit more about, the whole shock of, him not getting an Andretti seat. And oh God, he's only 23. I did not realize he was still that young. Jesus Christ. So even in a few years' time, he'll still be, okay, fair enough. Could Colton Herder be an option again? Could Visa and Cash App be like, hey, we want to drive in again? Is it fair? Would I be open to that? Kinda. Honestly, maybe. It's kind of annoying that we have people from other series. I prefer if people from F3, F2, that sequence of progression to F1 get into F1. But it would be interesting. It would be interesting to see Herder's name come up in the rumors again. Hey, if it happens. Now, is it something that potentially happens this year? Possibly. Is it something that could happen for the year after, maybe because they keep Yuki for one more year? Possibly. I think that's something we look at. I think I should put that rumor out there. Herder to Racing Bulls again. I'm gonna own that. If that happens, y'all come back to me and y'all make me famous, okay? I predicted it. Fucking where's my 100k subscribers? No. No. It's a possibility. I think it's a very dark horse's prediction, but I think it's in the same way that Williams, with their new ownership, wanted an American driver, or Red Bull, Honda wanted one of their Honda juniors, and they've actually got quite a few Honda juniors. I think it's 3 Honda juniors technically. Yuki's technically not in the junior team anymore because he's graduated to F1. But Iwasa, you're thinking, I think, and there's one other guy who's in what's the series? But anyways, what Antonelli was in last year, I think he is. Something like that. So possible. All right, movie. Yeah, this might be like 2 hours long. Sorry, guys, it's so long. We spent an hour talking about like all the other teams, an hour talking about. So it's kind of like a review, like a review so far, then a preview for the rest. Sneak peek into what else could happen. What time is it as well? Ooh, I really should finish up as well because it's getting a bit late for me, but it's probably better that I leave it just for a little because yeah, whatever. So Sauber, here's the thing when I'm thinking of Sauber, and again, I'm not calling them mistakes, sorry. It's just like I'm not calling X Twitter. I'm not calling Twitter X. Fucking whoops. bit of a I'm not calling X Twitter. I'm not calling X XX. I'm calling X Twitter. whatever. So for now, I'm just going to refer them to Sauber until they become Audi in 2026, which I'm happy to call them Audi, whatever. I respect that more than I respect steak or kick. So the boring option for Sauber, I think, is this year Porsche could replace Zhou. I think the likelihood of that happening is it's not as big, but it is an option. It's the easy option. It's the predictable option. You got to think of how much say does Sauber still have over that team? You know, does Stake want them? Because Stake are the name right now. So, you know, you got to think Stake and Kick have a bit of say in the team as well. You know, they're not even title sponsors. They're straight up just the name. So yes, there's that. I mean, when you also think, another thing is the question asked about Sauber is Bottas still potentially in the running for the Audi. I think he could be solid. I think Bottas is still a solid pick to go back to Mercedes or to even potentially for Red Bull. I'm thinking. I thought for Ferrari as well, maybe he's a good stand-in during that period of time, but obviously the period of time between Sainz and Behrman, but now, you know, obviously Hamilton's gone to Ferrari. Bottas is still, I think, still option for him, but I feel like with Bottas, I think he's happy to stick around Sauber because, I mean, he's doing a lot more. He's in his Kimi Räikkönen era where he's halfway out the door. It's Kimi Räikkönen era, but you know, he's doing the same thing where it's like, yeah, and even one picture of him I saw is like, god damn, that looks so much like Kimi Räikkönen. He had this like kind of similar hair and a similar look to him, you know. I was like, god damn. But I think he might still be interested in Audi, you know, a few years with Audi maybe, potentially, but is Audi still interested in him? That's another question to look at. Maybe you just go with the easy option of keeping Bottas around. Again, another easy option for them. Bottas per share in 2025. Now, the other thing I wanted to think with Sauber, especially because I have seen one rumor, which I believe, because, it's not really a rumor because I think the Audi guys said it themselves. Audi are basically saying they won't be ready. They won't have their final product until 2027. So the year after they join the sport. So then is that scary for Sainz to go, I want to go to Audi, but then does he wait until 2027 or does he wait until 2026? Does Sainz really make the sacrifice to maybe be in a subpar car for at least a year, then 2026, maybe they're a car that's in the midfield, but not quite ready to compete. I think Audi could like actually generally be a top team once they're ready, like in 2027, 2028. But is it too early for Sainz? That's what I wonder. I was also thinking about Behrman and Sauber for a year. That was more of an option when it could have been like, hey, Ferrari go, we'll sign you for 2 years. We'll put Behrman in the Sauber. Then it's just a swap. So it's like, Sauber, here's what you lose. Here's what you have to gain for keeping Behrman for a year or two. You will give you Sainz. You know, and then obviously Sauber like, ooh, that's interesting, you know. Behrman could possibly be good for us for a year. So they gain something back. Technically they could get Sainz anyways, but they're saying, we'll keep Sainz happy, you keep Behrman happy, we swap them, everybody's happy. You know, instead of Sainz maybe being like, oh, this is such a shitbox in 2025 and 2026, and maybe even then leaving again, going like, or even having that like that negative energy around him. when it comes to 2027, and maybe things start to fall apart, and like maybe it's just better for Sainz to jump into the car in 2027 when they have a competitive car, and they're potentially ready to challenge for titles. Anyways, the other thing I was thinking of is Sauber, because Hulkenberg and Ocon for Sauber for Audi. So you want those guys for Audi. Maybe generally, if you do think you're not going to be competitive until 2027, maybe you do a lineup like that for Audi. You get them both in next year. And yeah, I mean, maybe they have nothing to lose. Think of where Alpine are. Maybe it's a bit of downwards move for Ocon, but it's not. You're not losing too much, and you've got the potential to, hey, this keeps my F1 career going, and the potential. And again, Hulkenberg. You would have to think at this point that Sauber is at least going to be better than Haas next year, and then maybe in the year after, and the year after. Or Audi's definitely going to have more potential than Haas, I feel. So I think Hulkenberg doesn't lose anything. That's why I think maybe Sauber should go Hulkenberg Ocon to start off with. Hulkenberg retires, you get Sainz in. Ocon goes elsewhere, you get another elite driver in. Or, again, interesting that they've signed Zane Maloney. Maybe they're pushing towards to see what Zane Maloney does, and maybe he's a potential driver for Audi. Maybe Audi go, okay, all right, we see you developing this guy. We'll do it. Again, maybe Sauber get Mick Schumacher after a few years of him doing well in Mercedes, for example. If he does go to Mercedes, or he goes to Alpine, for example, then Mick makes the move to Sauber and everybody's happy. German driver in Sauber, a decent German driver. Like Hulkenberg's all right, but yeah. The only thing I can think of Hulkenberg going elsewhere than Sauber is, does Sauber get him a podium, or Audi get him a podium in a few years' time? Does Hulkenberg have to stay around till 2027 to really have that podium shot? Maybe in 2027 he gets a podium, or maybe in 2026 even, but he has to wait a long time to actually get what he wants. So that's one of the things I'm thinking. Anyways, we have talked a little bit about Haas. Let's move on to Haas. I think Hulk's leaving. I think that's more guaranteed, but it's like, would they also get rid of Magnussen if Hulkenberg leaves? That'll be interesting to see. I think if Hulkenberg stays, you probably get rid of Magnussen and you replace him with Behrman. I think Behrman's a lock. A Behrman is lock for Haas. I don't think it's the best destination for Behrman, but it's now probably better than for him now that Steiner's gone, and I think that's why they got rid of Steiner, because they wanted Behrman. And potentially maybe Ferrari aren't interested in Behrman, and Behrman just gets to be the elite driver for Haas. I guess that's the thing that these junior drivers do gain. Hey, maybe they decide we're going to get someone else rather than Behrman. Behrman gets to stay with Haas. Haas improves, Behrman improves. All of a sudden they're competing for a championship with Behrman. That worked out, whatever, but it's probably not going to be. Behrman's going to be a good choice for Haas, I think. But I don't think Behrman should be happy about going to Haas. Anyways, I think so. Behrman replaces Magnussen, but if instead of Hulkenberg leaves and Behrman replaces him, do they replace Magnussen with someone else? And who do they replace him? Does Colton Herta? Is there Alex Palou? American driver. Maybe they get another American driver, and Haas kind of try to rebrand themselves to be like, hey, remember, Haas might sound like it's a German a German car, but it is really an American car. We have American, remember? Even though they've more embraced some European influence, I feel. But anyways, yeah. So I'm just thinking like, who would be the next other option for Haas? Who would want to go to Haas? No one on the current grid would want to go to Haas. Do they pick up a driver? Oh, Porsche. I was thinking, if Porsche doesn't get anything with Sauber, do Haas go for Porsche? Because then you don't lose Porsche. Porsche leaves the Sauber Academy. Boom. He doesn't have any affiliations except for with Haas. Now Haas get to keep him as long as Porsche, wants to stay with the team. Then does Porsche do some stuff with Haas, for example? Whereas like you give Behrman to Ferrari, but Porsche saves Haas. I think Porsche to Haas would be an interesting move. And I think that's what Haas should do. I think that's what Porsche should do if he gets snubbed by Sauber, which I think is the most likely option right now. Okay, let's also talk about Williams real quick. Logan. Actually, no, let's talk about Albon, because I thought Albon was a lock. But Williams are also one of the teams where I think they could possibly lose both of theirs. Logan doesn't perform, Albon goes somewhere else. Albon, here's the thing. I think Williams is best for Albon, so I think he should continue to drive for Williams. I think Williams is steadily improving, and I think he's just got a better shot of being the face of Williams. And if Williams really do continue to improve this year, I think he really should stick with Williams, and he should be. Imagine if Alex Albon was the guy to win a championship with Williams, or win 2 championships with Williams, whatever. I think Albon has that championship potential, especially if Williams pull a cat out of the bag, cat out of the hat, whatever. They really develop something that's dominant. They make Red Bull look like fools or something. I don't know. They go like, well, we're gonna one up you. Potentially, Williams a championship contender in 2026, even 2025. I doubt it, but 2026 maybe. And I think Albon would be missing out on that. But what happens if they do? If Albon leaves and Logan? I think this is Logan's last chance. Yeah, sure, maybe you keep him if Albon leaves. You go, we want at least one person, but we're really hoping for a really good third year at Logan. Like, this is your last chance. Like, 2025 is his last chance. I mean, who do you replace him with? It's hard to say. Do you get another rookie? Or the other thing I think Williams should do, I wonder, and I don't think they're going to do this though, because I think James Vowles set on Logan Sargent, and they're set on the juniors, and they're set on Albon, whatever. I think they really should target a veteran when you think about it. I'm thinking about Bottas, for example. Maybe Bottas comes back to Williams, especially after Sauber kick him out the door and he goes, I don't know. Or does Bottas just retire? Or does Bottas go, hey, let's have one last hurrah with Williams, especially maybe if he's the main driver, or maybe he's happy to be second and fiddle to Alex Albon. I don't know if he really feels like in his head he's probably thinking, yeah, sure, I can still compete for championships, but yeah. I think that's a possibility. Could Checo go, let's see what my options are if Red Bull kicks me out, I don't think Mercedes is going to really want him. I don't think Aston Martin's really going to want him back. He could go with Alpine, but where's the likelihood of Alpine? He could, if he really wanted to, he could accept the Racing Bulls option and do a swap, but I don't even think there's much for Racing Bulls to gain from that. I don't think he goes to Sauber, Audi, I don't know, Haas, maybe, he would be good as having a North American driver, and Haas would be good, like not necessarily an American driver, but, Mexican. And Mexico, Mexican fans supporting an American team, sort of poetic. So having that Mexican fan base as well would be interesting. But I think it's more likely that Williams could be something where maybe Checo just goes, Williams is improving. Maybe he has one last hurrah. I don't know. With Williams, especially if Albon's gone, wins the championship, gets close to challenging Albon to a championship, has that one last little bit of, a few podiums, a few wins maybe. Don't know. Other thing I'm looking at, and he's back again. I'm talking about him again. Sebastian Vettel. I think it's still an option for Sebastian Vettel. If, again, same thing with Mercedes. If Vettel goes to Williams, I think that's good for Williams, especially because you have the new staff, the new technical director, the new whatever. I think they're going to develop a new car, a much better car, and I think what better than to really push it forward with Sebastian Vettel, who I think could really improve that car, even if Sebastian Vettel isn't there in 2026 or isn't there to see championships. At least he contributed to that, and I think that could be interesting. And Vettel said he might be interested still in racing, but I think this will be a nice end of his career. Aston Martin wasn't exactly sour, but he obviously wasn't happy where he was in Aston Martin, even though he knew that Aston Martin would have a good car in 2023. He was like, that's it. I feel like retiring. I might be back, but don't count on it. So that's another possibility for Williams. Again, Williams could look at one of their rookies or one of the guys in F2 and stuff, but it's a bit soon for that as well. So Williams are in a tough position if Logan doesn't perform and they lose Albon. I think Albon should stick with Williams. I think they should get rid of Logan, but we'll see how Logan progresses. Again, maybe Logan will have a good second. I'm not going to put my money on it. So anyways, funny. Okay. Let's end it off also with the silly season kind of sort of thing of Andretti not getting in. That's a bit sad because I did honestly want 2 seats. Andretti wasn't the best one for that because, like, even in my predictions, I was going to go Herta's getting in. Ugh, no IndyCar. Now I think they might have even gone Kyle Kirkwood for the other seat, meaning F2 stars don't really benefit from Andretti being on the grid. So, and then verse proven F1 stars. So someone like Checo, which would be annoying still, like, because you'd more want someone to get the opportunity like Mick or like Doohan, for example, or I don't know, Logan goes to Andretti anyways, and then someone gets an opportunity in Williams. I don't know. So that's the thing about Andretti that I'm like kind of like yes and no. Was there a possibility for 2 of their 2 seats to just be filled by someone in IndyCar anyway? I don't know why I'm so upset about Herta being in Andretti, but I think it's just it would be interesting if he was in Racing Bulls. It wouldn't be the best option for Racing Bulls, I don't think. Again, V-carb, whatever. But for Andretti, it's just like, you're a new team. We want you to give an opportunity to some F1 talent, some F1 caliber talent, and I don't think IndyCar drivers are. It could be interesting. Could be Herta comes into F1 and actually keeps up, or it could be another Logan Sargent. I don't know, or a Nick DeVries more. We don't know if Logan Sargent's going to improve. I'm just a Logan Sargent hater. I'm sorry. Anyways, I think that's about it for that. It'll be really interesting to see what even happens in the next few weeks, and obviously throughout the year. It's already not as boring a silly season this year. But yeah, so hopefully in a bit I'll get this uploaded same day, maybe. But we'll see. And yeah, we've got one more next episode podcast, one more episode planned. Then obviously we might have some more episodes planned. We could potentially redo a draft again, or redo the 2023 draft, or something, or complete that, whatever. No, but the other thing I was thinking was we do a season predictions before the season start. I might have some guests for that as well, just to get some different perspectives and everything. But yeah, I really need to have lunch. And yeah, that's about it for me. Catch you all later, and hopefully I'll do another podcast in maybe the next few weeks. Yeah. I swear I probably forgot something with the silly season preview, but whatever. I hope you enjoyed, and catch ya.